action, Guillermo.
Request data transcripts, Joe, virtual life.
Action on the dolly.
Today, the art and science of creating motion pictures has changed dramatically.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just sit like you're going to sit. You will not be getting up.
You push through. Push through. You look at him and you stand up.
The capabilities of computer hardware and software have allowed filmmakers to create scenes that have never before been possible. With state-of-the-art digital techniques, perhaps the only limitation to what can be created on film is the director's imagination. In the beginning, the fact that pictures could move was magic enough. Snapshots were brought to life in these early scenes of everyday events. Entrepreneurs such as Thomas Edison realized they could bring entertainment to the masses with these simple films. The Lumiere brothers were the first to project a moving picture to the paying public. Their film, Arrival of a Train, is said to have caused the audiences to bound from their seats in shock at the approach of the train. One of the earliest films to use the camera for a special effect was The Execution of Mary, Queen of Scots. The Queen kneels at the block, and a life-size dummy replaces the actress. More than a few viewers marveled at the actress's sacrifice. The French magician cinematographer Georges Méliès is considered to be the father of special effects. Méliès realized the camera could be used to manipulate reality. In his most famous film, A Trip to the Moon, Méliès uses split screen, multiple exposures, and mechanical stage tricks to produce a humorous and innovative fantasy. Deserves its place in history as the first science fiction film. In the early 1900s, movies seemed to have lost their popularity. Taking a cue from Méliès, filmmakers captured popular imagination by using a narrative, giving the movies a fresh lease on life. The Great Train Robbery consisted of scenes placed together to tell a story. With its non-theatrical sets and dramatic close-ups rather than stage props, gimmicks, or tricks, the audiences of the day were stunned. This early Western made use of some of the first matte shots. In the mail car, the landscape can be seen through the open door. When the film of the landscape was shot, the set area was masked off. Then the film was rewound and the set area photographed with the door area masked off. The resulting film was a composite. By 1912, glass shots and miniatures were used to replace or add portions to a scene. Even the most famous of all movie sets, The Walls of Babylon, built for D.W. Griffith's Intolerance, had cutouts and glass shots to increase the size and detail of the set. Large panes of glass were set between the camera and background, and miniatures were strategically placed. In the 20s, epics like Ben-Hur used miniatures hanging between the camera and full-scale sets to create the appearance of one single massive stadium. Fritz Lang's futuristic fantasy Metropolis impressively blended every tool available to the special effects teams. With the advent of sound, overnight, the fundamentals of filmmaking changed. The need to shoot on sound stages triggered the studios to develop their special effects departments in a systematic way. With pools of technical talent, the effects departments created many new techniques, leading in just a few short years to RKO Pictures' release in 1933 of King Kong. Kong was the logical extension of the films of Méliès, Griffith, and Lang. Live action combined with large-scale mechanical effects and Willis O'Brien's innovative stop-motion animation created a compelling sense of reality. Much of the background of this cave set scene has been painted on glass. Intricate miniature sets have been combined with previously photographed live action projected onto miniature screens camouflaged by rocks. Adding the 18-inch stop-motion Kong creates a scene of astonishing realism. This film is as entertaining today as it was 60 years ago, and many of the techniques developed for King Kong are still used in today's modern epics.
In the early days, we had 7 major studios, and there were effects departments in all of them. Fortunately, at RKO, being the smallest studio, we did everything in the one department, and therefore I had the opportunity of learning by working in all these categories. Since the studios closed, then naturally there had to be independent effects houses to handle all this work. And many of the fellows that worked in the studios opened up their own places like I did and carried on into the independent field.
We've done is basically become the effects department for the studios. We're like a little mini studio ourselves. We have all the various departments under one roof that enable us to do visual effects from start to finish. If I walk around the studio in my mind, you would have the art department, you'd have the production office, you'd have the shooting stage, the model shop, the matte painting department, you'd have film processing, animation, optical, editorial, of course, projection, engineering, both electronic and mechanical. All these are various departments, and the beauty of having them all under one roof is there's a cross-pollination that happens, so that somebody from another department may even come up with an idea that will affect you. So it's a great sort of think tank approach to creating sort of impossible images in a lot of cases. Sid is a really talented person and peculiarly talented in terms of future think. He thinks in terms of how designs will be in the next century, or and he has a real good sense of that, and he's a great designer on top of that. So not only does he know how it will look, but he knows how to make it look that way.
The rocket ships, all those set designs were done specifically to make the story more dramatic and more entertaining and more believable to a large audience.
Sid does not design every section and every piece. It's a feeling that he comes across, and so you need to have basically an architect who can take that basic conceptual idea and make it work in all of the various details of the model.
Models are used when either the real article is not available, or for instance, in a spaceship, it doesn't exist, so you have to build it in a model. For instance, back in the old days, when, say they needed an ancient castle, obviously in Hollywood or Los Angeles, there are no castles, so they have to be built in miniature.
At the turn of the century, models were used to present historical events to the public. The Battle of Manila Bay was recreated on a tiny set the size of a bathtub, using a number of simple special effects. Models were used by the studios to save costs in common everyday scenes, or to create futuristic settings such as in the Buck Rogers serials. Miniatures also offer filmmakers a safer way of creating the costly destruction that audiences come to expect in Hollywood's action pictures.